Okay, this is the fourth part in this series devoted to Improv Card Magic. Now today we need 10 card packets, and in particular we will need 3 piles of 10 cards each. So let's go ahead and just deal those out. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There we go. 10 random cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There we go. 3 piles of 10 random cards each. Now, if you've been watching this series at all, you know what happens next. What we're going to do is we're going to look at each of these piles one at a time and decide on what particular structure to go with for the reveal. And once the cards have been mixed thoroughly, we will reveal the pairs that we made note of at the beginning. Okay. And for the first pile here, we're free to choose any of these packet structures, whichever's the strongest, I suppose. And then as we narrow it down, we're kind of stuck with whatever we're handed here. Okay, so let's take a look at the first packet. And as always, we'll quickly look for any AMP structure of interest. That's normally the easiest one to spot. So AMP is where we take them in pairs, starting from the top. So here, wow, we got 2 hearts. There we go. So 2 hearts, that's nice. 2 black cards, different suits. Opposite color, opposite color. Ooh, another black pair. So if we went with the AMP structure, we would have 1 red pair. In fact, it's matching suits, in particular hearts. And then 2 matching black pairs. And the other 2 pairs would be non-matching colors. Okay, so that's pretty interesting and fairly strong. So that's the AMP structure. Why don't we go ahead and look at the mirrored structure? And if you remember, this is where we look at the outer ones, and these are in a mirrored relationship. So if we view this as a mirrored structure, when we mix it, these 2 will be paired together, opposite color. These 2 are opposite color. These 2 the same color, different suits. These 2 opposite color, opposite color. So that's not bad either, because really all of them are of opposite color within the pair, except for that 5 of spades and queen of clubs. Okay, what about the 2-cycle structure? Is there anything interesting there that might be stronger? I'll go ahead and just kind of jog these so that you can kind of focus on the 2-cycle structure here. So let me just move these around here a little bit. Okay, so if you remember how this works is the first card in this first set of 5 cards, we say the first cycle, is related to the first card in the second set of 5 cards. So those are related by position, and those are of opposite color. Oh, wow, these are both hearts. That's nice. These are both black, which is good, but not the same suit. Oh, here we go. We got another pair of suits matching, and then we got opposite color. So as a 2-cycle, we would be able to match up the 3 of hearts and the 9 of hearts, along with the jack of clubs and the king of clubs. And we would also be matching up the black 5 with the black queen. So of those, which one do you think is the strongest? Okay, and you might have a strong opinion about that. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do something very different today. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, and you can watch me here, I'm going to write down something over here. I'm going to write down 8. Okay, and now you could do this on a piece of paper as well if you're going to have a hard time remembering all these numbers, which you might actually. And then I'm going to write down 16. And as you write these down, you can have the spectator watch you if you like, or do it without them watching. Just kind of hold the paper close to you and jot down these numbers. And 21 and 15, or 16 that is. Now I want to show you how you can turn a mistake into a strengthening element. Okay, so it ends up that the 15 here, I don't know how to count, is incorrect. It's supposed to be a 16. I'm going to leave that on my notes and have that as another fun little twist at the very end. Okay, so I'll have you wait and see what meaning these numbers have. It might be that you've been able to figure out where I came up with these numbers, and if so, kudos to you. If not, that's okay. You'll see in just a moment. But this is something that can be easily done. Okay, so I wrote those down, jot those down for future reference there. Okay, so this will be our AMP packet, so I'll kind of line it up with this column here. Okay, so this is our AMP packet. Okay, so as you may recall, all I've done here is I have simply, so let me bring up our basic shuffle list here. So what I've done is I've simply chosen a path to follow, and all of these involve random choices that we can give the spectator, and they can decide how key things are done. So we're viewing this as an AMP, and so the first thing that we'll do is a mange. Okay, so if you're starting to get these structures down, you probably know what's going to happen. Sorry, I'm being OCD here. This is going to drive me crazy. I have this new pad here and it's just sticking everywhere. Okay, so what does a mange shuffle do to an AMP? So come over here on our list. That's line 13. Well, what does a mange do to an AMP? Well, recall that it converts it to a mirrored structure or packet, okay, which is what we have marked right here. Okay, and now if you remember, the mange comes in two varieties, an over-under and an under-over. And you can give the spectator that choice, because in the end, both of them will convert this to a mirrored structure relative to the pairings that we made note of at the beginning. Okay, so you could ask the spectator, I'm going to do kind of a fun shuffle. It's called a mange shuffle, and it comes in two varieties, an over-under or an under-over. Which one would you like? And maybe they'll say under-over. Okay, so how this works is you move the one card to your other hand, and then you go under, over, under, over, under, over, under, over, under. So that is a mange under-over. Okay, that takes us to a mirrored structure. Now, you'll probably remember that mirrored packets have a whole bunch of shuffles that will preserve them. Okay, the most famous among them is just the LR shuffle, left, right, left, right, left, right, with random stacking of the left pile on top of the right or the right pile on top of the left. It's a free choice by the spectator. Maybe they'll ask for right on left. Now, I do want to point out that we can do as many of these as you like. This left-right shuffle. Okay, and maybe this time they'll ask for left on right. That's just fine. So do as many of those as the spectator would like, but all of them will preserve the mirrored structure itself. Okay? And now we're going to do something called a supercoat. Now recall, what does the supercoat do? It's over here. It's line 6 up above. It's similar. It's essentially a 50% coating of the cards in which you can freely choose to stack the left pile on top of the right or the right pile on top of the left. That's the only difference. Okay? And that will convert a mirrored structure to a two-cycle structure. And interestingly, it's one of the few shuffles that will also go in reverse. That same shuffle will convert a two-cycle structure to a mirrored structure. Okay, so that's kind of cool. Okay, so what you do is you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, Drop these on the table. And now the spectator's free to stack left on right or right on left. Maybe it'll go left on right. That's just fine. Now it's guaranteed to be a 2-cycle. Now once it's a 2-cycle, you know that cutting the cards randomly, have the spectator decide how to cut them if you would like, will preserve 2-cycle structures. Also a Charlier shuffle. This is where you do top to bottom, bottom to top, top to bottom. I have a separate video on the Charlier shuffle if you want to look it up. Okay, this is a very convincing little shuffle, and it preserves 2 cycles. And then the next one that we actually haven't used yet in this particular series, it's found near the very bottom, 25 on our list. It's called an FL squared F. And that is an acronym for the first shall be last and the last shall be first. Okay, so how this works is you begin dealing out the cards into piles until the spectator says stop, and then you deal into another one until they say stop. Okay, deal into another one, maybe they say stop there, and then deal into another one until you run out of cards. And now you stack from right to left, which is true to the name. It's called the first shall be last and the last shall be first. So you're just stacking them in the opposite order to which they were dealt. Okay? Now it ends up that this rather complicated looking little shuffle, it preserves all 3 structure types, as you can see down below. Check that out. Isn't that nice? Okay, so the FL squared F, it will preserve a 2-cycle structure, a mirrored structure, and an AMP. It leaves it unharmed. Now it ends up that this FL squared F is technically a packet reversal. It just reverses the order of the cards. Well, all 3 structure types that we look at, if you reverse the order of the cards, it will not harm the fact that it's of that certain structure type. So why don't we go up here? Where's my mouse? I'm using my left hand for this. So I've come down here and just imagine essentially reading these lists, you know, the 2-cycle, mirrored, and AMP. Instead of from left to right, read it from right to left. Well, will it still not be of that same structure? So if you read a 2-cycle structure from right to left, it will be 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That is a 2-cycle. There is a pattern that repeats twice. And similar for the mirrored structure. In fact, for the mirrored structure, it looks identical. Because if you come down here and read this from right to left, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, which is exactly the same if you do it from left to right. Okay. And then for the AMP structure, reading those in reverse order will not change the fact that it is actually an AMP structure. That in pairs, they are related in the way that you've designated at the beginning. Okay? So anyway, this will preserve all 3 of them. Okay, so just keep that in mind. And it's especially nice to use if you have quite a few cards, 10 or more cards, because then you can deal out quite a few little piles and then you stack from right to left. Okay, now the next one, we have used it before, but it might not be one that you're super comfortable with because I don't think we've used it that many times. It's at line 23 right here. It's called the LR to the negative R. Now the negative R is there to remind us of the kind of dealing that we will do. Okay, so an LR, negative R, is as follows. You just need to make note of how many cards you have, namely 10. Divide that in half. That's 5. So what we're going to do is we're going to deal out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's the same. Now instead of putting this one here, you go in reverse order. You go 1 here, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay? So that's what that negative R is telling us to do. We'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. and then you go backwards 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in terms of dealing them. Okay, and now you can stack these from left to right or from right to left. So have the spectator decide that. Just say, okay, how would you like me to stack these from left to right or right to left? Okay, maybe they'll say left to right. Well, what that is guaranteed to do, as you can see on the chart there on line 23, is it converts a two-cycle structure to a mirrored structure. Okay, so we're back to a mirrored structure. Okay, and now I'm asking us to just do an LR deal, but don't stack. Okay, and we've done this sort of thing before. And if you remember, what this gives us right here, these two together, these will now be, quote, mirrored piles. Okay, and then you may remember that if we have, quote, mirrored piles, we can do something special that's quite fun. It's called the swapping procedure. Okay, you remember this from a previous video? Okay, so here what you do is you just make note of, okay, how many cards do you have in each half? Well, it's 5, of course, in each. So that number of cards minus 1, so 5 minus 1, which is 4, is the number of swaps that we have at the beginning of this process, okay? And the spectator can freely allocate those swaps however they would like. So we have a total of 4 swaps. So maybe they'll want 1 swap here. What's a swap again? This is where you move the top card to the bottom. That's 1 swap. So we've used up 1 out of the 4 that we have that we can spend. And now we can do the other 3 here. 2, 3. And then what you do is you just set aside this pair right here. Just set aside that pair of cards. Now we have 3 swaps left because there's 4 in each. So maybe they'll want 1, 2 of them applied there, and then we have 1 swap left we can apply to that one, and we just set aside that pair. We have 2 swaps left. Maybe they'll want both of them over here. 1, 2, that's just fine. Set aside this pair like that. And then we have 1 swap left. You want it on the left? Okay, so we'll go like that. Set aside this pair like that. And so that gives us our pairings. So here we have our pairings. Okay, so what we may want to do is, I'm trying to make some room here so we can see what we're doing. Okay, so here are our pairings. I'll just have them sideways there so you can keep them separate from these other piles of 10. Okay, so do you remember, well, you probably don't remember, but you probably remember that I wrote down numbers for this first one. You remember that? I wrote down 5 numbers. Okay. Now, I decided to not tell you exactly what those were representing right from the start, but you'll find out here in just a second. Okay. So, so there's a few ways to proceed. You could state now what will happen, or you can flip these face up and the spectator will look at the cards and go, what am I to get from that? I mean, what does that tell us? And then, you know, kind of bring out your slip of paper and go, oh, that's interesting. I wrote down something about these cards. And so maybe we'll do it that way. Okay, so why don't we go ahead, we'll just say, okay, let's see what pairings you've come up with. You know, given all of those random choices made by you, the spectator, where did that bring us in the end? Okay, so where are we here? Okay, so let me just that. Maybe I'll put this one down here, I suppose. I don't know, just to. Okay, there we go. Okay, and you can ask the spectator, okay, do these pairings mean anything to you? And they'll, I don't know, they'll probably say no, that doesn't seem to be anything special. I guess you got a couple of hearts matching there is all, but and then you can bring out your little note, say, wow, that's interesting. I jotted down, and this is when you can tell them what the meaning is. He said, I jotted down what these pairs of cards would add to, what their values within each pair would add to. I wonder if I got any of them right. Well, I have an 8 Do any of these add up to 8 in value? Let's see now. Oh, got one right here. That adds to 8. I also wrote down 16. Do any of them add up to 16? I don't think so. Oh, right here. Right? 5, Jackson 11. 5 plus 11 is 16. Let's see, what was the other one? Oh, I wrote down 11. Do you see a pair that adds up to 11? I do, right here. 9 and a 2. Those add to 11. And then I have a 21. Do any of these add up to 20? Oh, let's see. A queen is a 12 plus 9. That's a 21. We nailed that one too. And then my final number, see, I had a 15. Does the remaining pair add up to... well, the remaining pair is this one, I believe. See, king is 13 plus 3. That's 16. It's not 15. Oh, wait a second. Here, I'll show you my piece of paper. I actually wrote 15 and then I crossed it out and wrote 16. Is that what they add up to? They do indeed. How in the world, working together, were we able to do that? That is absolutely amazing. Wow. Please teach me how you did that. Okay, so that is the AMP presentation. Okay, and so now you know what the values represented from the very start. So when we had those, you had that packet out, and I just looked at them in pairs, and I just quickly added up their card values within each pair. Here, that was a genuine mistake. I don't know why I added 13 and 3, and I initially got 15, and then I looked at it again, I thought, well, that's not right. It's 16. So you can turn it into kind of a fun little twist at the end. So that was not intentional, but you can work it into the performance seamlessly if you would like. Okay, so that is the presentation dealing with the AMP structure that we noted at the very beginning. Okay, very good.